main reasons why we are not able to go to the root cause is a lack of adequate understanding of product and process. All today we do all this quality by design. So we during the development, so we study all material attributes, process parameters, and their impact on the CQS, etc. We do all these things on the paper and to meet the submission requirement. But when strict timelines for filing and first to file, etc. So not enough information or data is generated when the product is filed, and once the product is filed and when it gets approved, the same product needs to get transferred and then commercially manufactured. So at that point of time, the entire information about what is impacting the product quality may or may not be available.
So, according to you, how can a pharma company use data to win the pricing war?
Okay, so it's a good question. See, one way to counter the pricing war, so you have to be cost effective. So you need to improve your efficiency continuously, and efficiency could come in terms of capacity utilization, improvement of yields, so that your the cost of product comes down, etc. And these are the things can be done using a lot of data. See, I'm a strong proponent of Six Sigma, and the first thing is measure. First step. First is define the problem. Problem you have already spelled out. So the next step is the measurement, and that is where the data tells us where we are. I can give you one small example. In one of my organization, we started measuring the OEE or capacity utilization of HPLCs. And
Yeah,
earlier, people were just saying based on some ad hoc information, they were saying that utilization is about 70%, 80%, and they will every year they will come to me asking for more HPLCs. So then I, utilized this chromatography software to develop a report which gives the actual net utilization of HPLCs, and we found that actual net utilization was about 25 to 30%, and these people were claiming 70, 80% and asking for more. So then the first thing I made was, you have to put the KRA in their goals, that yes, they have to achieve at least 50% utilization. So then people who were asking for more HPFC, they started thinking I should not ask, because if they add more, the capacity utilization will go down further. Then we implemented a Six Sigma program on this to identify the all the non-value added activities which are happening and how the productivity is lost. We did all kind of waterfall, etc., to understand where the loss is happening, and then we implemented those corrective actions, and then our average utilization went up to close to 60-65%. Okay, and that has how it has helped, because virtually we stopped buying additional HPLCs. So it saved costs. Then when you don't add, and when we put new plants in other locations, we transferred the HPLCs from the old plant. So that way, capital expenditure we avoided. That is one. Second thing, more HPLC you add more cost for maintenance, calibrations, etc. So that cost also came down. So that way
yeah,
we could do a substantial. This is one small example from the on the laboratory side. On the other side, there are, see, many investigations we found there are new correlations emerging from different process parameters and material attributes. By correcting those and identifying better, more suitable parameters, we could significantly improve yield in many of the APIs and in a few drug products as well.
yeah. So you have brought some really interesting things to surface. Uh, we'll go deeper into the HPLC problem statement a bit more. I want to really come back to the stark difference between the actual utilization of about 25% versus the perceived utilization of maybe even 70%. Do you think it's a one-off issue, or do you feel it's a widespread problem across the wider set of companies?
It could be because unless you get the real data, first of all, see, if you rely on the data which is not trustworthy, like manually recorded data, so first your measurement
Yeah,
method for the data should be accurate. It should give you true picture. So, like how we did when this measurement, we use the HPLC software itself. It keeps track of all the injections, injection one to last injection, right? So you can
yeah,
absolutely carry out how much time HPLC was actually used for analysis and how much time it was waste. Okay, so that way the clear picture comes out, and then once you know the clear picture, then you can start thinking where the wastage is and how to eliminate that wastage.
makes sense. So it seems that the answer to winning the pricing war is to create operational excellence and cut down the cost of manufacturing itself by a significant portion. And we know that it has multiple components. Manpower seems to be a big component of that. There are other big contributors that we'll touch upon. Can you enlighten our audience by understanding the impact and perhaps even the significance of even focusing on areas like chromatography and HPLC equipment? Uh, I mean, we know that it's a multi-million dollar opportunities. If not even more significant, has a lot of impact on the lead time as well. The kind of service SLAs you can meet in the market. But do you mind enlightening our audience a little bit more on why they should even focus on uh, something like improving the efficiency of HPLCs in their labs?
Okay, that's very good question. So I already said why it is important. So I'm not going to repeat that same thing again. But how it can be improved, that I will elaborate a little more with some more examples. See, in HPLC analysis, initially you have to do system suitability check, and only if the
Yeah,
system meets the requirements specified in the pharmacopoeia, then you can proceed with your analysis. So, I noticed that when we did some data evaluation, I noticed that the system suitability failures were ranging from uh, anywhere about 5% to about 30% in different facilities. Okay, so that was perplexing. Why should be so much failure? And what happens if there is a failure? Say 30% failure means you are repeating the entire activity. The analyst prepares all the solutions, standards, etc. And he is about to start analysis and he finds that the system suitability fails. So he has to start the work all over again. So he loses probably a day or half a day, whatever time is spent in preparatory work. So now, if I can avoid the system suitability failure by analyzing why the failures are happening, use some data analytics on the things like theoretical plates. See, these are the data which are available, but nobody is today really looking or trending. So if we have a say AI engine which on the background keeps monitoring the parameters like theoretical plates, trailing factors, resolution, etc., and then that way it keeps understanding how the column is behaving or how the column is deteriorating, and it can tell in advance the analyst that you have come to the end of the life of this column, and next analysis you better take a new column. So it can save
yeah,
me a system suitability failure, and that will significantly improve the productivity, because you don't lose the time, you don't lose the human resource for that, right? So this is one example of that. Same way, I'll give another example related to chromatography. So you see, there are different types of analysis. Like one is assay, dissolution, etc., which are simple kind of when it comes to chromatographic processing, because they typically
yeah,
have one or two peaks, and you can use standard integration methods, and you can even auto integrate and do processing automatically, right? Whereas when it comes to impurity tests or related substance tests, here there are many peaks, and some of the peaks are of known impurities, some are unknowns, and so you have to a person has to really go through the chromatogram manually to understand which peaks are where. See, sometimes these RRTs, etc., they are not precise; they vary because of various conditions. So this lot of time is spent in this processing. I have seen people spending hours 2 3 hours after the analysis is over just to do processing. So meantime the HPLC remains idle. You cannot clean your glassware and your results are waiting, and so it takes a lot of time. So if this process, if we are able to use say AI tool for this processing part, because see the system the all data, it can look at the large number of chromatograms of the past and then identify what are the best processing parameters for that particular method and that particular sequence, and it can apply that processing parameter automatically, so the whole processing can be automated. That will significantly reduce the time, and also that will help in the quick releases of the material. It will save the human resource time, so obviously you'll get a better productivity of people.
Yeah, and it seems like such a low-hanging opportunity that uh, perhaps many pharma companies may have been thinking about executing some of these strategies, and maybe even not. And those who are not will probably find a lot of value in the path that you have described today. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, hopefully,
I can share one
we'll.
more example which we actually implemented in one of my
Yep.
organizations. See, after the chromatographic analysis is done, the reviewer, the analyst completes his part of processing and result reporting of the results, etc. Then the reviewer go through all the data to make sure that the analyst has done proper job correctly, and there are no single injections or no data manipulations, etc. To ensure that there's a the analysis has been conducted in a compliant manner. And you have seen that many 483 observations are on this aspect of manual peak marking and people changing the values, etc., and which can only be detected through audit trail. Now we use robotic process automation to completely automate this process, because see, if you are relying on a reviewer, the reviewer can also make mistake. Second thing, reviewer may get fatigued, and then he may say okay, it's okay, without checking also. If he says okay, nobody can find whether he has really done the checking. Now if this activity, because since it is happens on the predefined rules, it can be easily automated using robotic process automation. And so you are not only improving the efficiency by reducing the review time as well as the people productivity, but you can also improve the reliability of the review.
Right. And I think it's really critical for us to highlight for the listeners that uh, anywhere you have pre-configured rules where human is actually conducting the job in an objective manner, there's always an opportunity to apply robotics process automation, which I'm sure almost everybody is familiar with in today's age. But I'll just lay down some details for those who are interested to hear. So essentially, instead of a human following a sequence of steps, it's essentially a machine or a script uh, performing the exactly prescribed sequence of steps. And that's where I think having predefined objective set of rules makes the process uh, quality adherence in a way that you don't first of all make any mistakes. Like you said, it improves the quality of the review as well, or quality of the work in general. And at the same time, since a machine is doing it in background, no human is actually required to spend all those tough hours to
Yeah.
review the data, transcript things, record things manually, apply those pre-configured rules. So it saves a bunch of time and as well as improve the quality of work. So I think RPA is definitely, which I'm sure almost all companies are using in one way or the other. But in my opinion, there is a lot more opportunity than we are utilizing it for today.
So at least for this example, I don't think anybody else was using. This was probably we started using it for the
Yeah.
first time. And to give a quantitative, how much benefit it gave us. So earlier, typically the ratio of reviewer to analyst is about 1 to 5. Okay.
Yeah.
So with implementing this robotic process automation, we could bring it down to 1 to 10.
Yeah, that's literally the double
Yeah.
amount of improvement. Yeah, great. So, Ganadish, I want to, first of all, thank you for sharing these couple of, I think, highly actionable and practical uh, strategies that the pharma companies can use to improve their operational excellence. I want to quickly refer your attention to a blog article that you recently published, and you have laid down several such ideas and strategies. Some of them I know you have been using uh, across your previous roles. We also know that some of these ideas are going to be implemented in future. So it's a mix of the success we have already had and some of the next generational ideas that we want to touch upon. We'll spend some time on that. I want to set the context by uh, taking our audience from the concept of data to the concept of AI. So, we saw a couple of really highly actionable examples of how looking at data can be uh, useful to create some quick actionable outcomes. Actually, let me share one example uh, as well before we actually switch the context from data to AI. So essentially, we all want to manufacture um, as many number of batches as possible. That's number one. But at the same time, we want to manufacture more number of high margin batches. So if we are using a combination of these two, we are going to improve the revenue coming out of a plant. So just by increasing the number of batches, we are able to ship more, increase revenue, but it will probably not guarantee a better cost effectiveness. However, if we also focus on manufacturing high margin batches, it will improve the overall profitability and productivity of the plant. Now,
I would
this
like to just
simple,
correct one
yeah,
aspect here. So in pharma, we just don't focus on profitability. We see what patients need.
yeah,
So product
yeah,
profitability has to be there. But if the demand is more for certain product, so we would
yeah.
prioritize that.
Absolutely, and I think that's where multi-constraint optimization comes into play. So we have many constraints that we need to adhere to, and demand of specific drugs happen to be one of them. There, if you are a CDMO company, then sometimes you have some premium customers, and you want to make sure that they are getting their deliveries on time. So there can be all of these constraints, and with a constrained set of environment, you would like to maximize the outcome slash profitability of a plant while ensuring your customer satisfaction, compliance with the FDA regulations, patient safety at the heart of all of this. Uh, and this simple idea can be achieved by looking at just two things in my experience. The first thing is what is the real-time status of each equipment in the manufacturing operations. So whether it is under manufacturing, under cleaning, under maintenance, under some other activities, essentially if it is available for manufacturing the drug or not, and if not, when it will become available. So that's one side of things. The second set of ideas you will need to complement the first is by knowing the historical performance of every equipment across every drug type. So we saw an example where looking at the performance of each equipment across their designated product profile and going only as far as the last 6 to 7 batches and having the accessibility of real-time status of equipment at hand. Uh, you were able to, with a good amount of predictability, repeatability, able to plan the production really well and ensure that you are maximizing the uh, not only the number of batches but prioritizing the batches which bring you the most amount of profitability or improve your gross margin. So I wanted to share this example because
Yeah.
it really doesn't require AI or any large language models to be in place. If you can apply those techniques, it will definitely provide that incremental benefit in creating better synergies, mapping the demand with the process more. But I would argue that you can achieve essentially a great deal of outcome without even going into the domains of AI.
No,
So this
one more
is
thing I would
in
like to add there.
yeah,
See, apart from optimizing utilization, the using the parameters, the data on all the process parameters, etc., you can actually optimize them to reduce the cycle time of the processing itself. That also will improve your
absolutely.
capacity and the outputs.
Yeah. Right. So just by using these two simple ideas, it seems that we can unlock a lot of capabilities to truly achieve some of the core outcomes that every pharma company desires, and maybe in fact, every company desires things like revenue, cost, compliance, sustainability, and focus while continuing to focus on the key drivers, which in pharma's case happen to be patient safety has to be uncompromised. We need to continue to comply with the FDA regulations. There's an element of customer satisfaction that has to be in place specifically for the CDMO companies. Now, as we transition from data to AI, there are two kind of opportunities. One kind of opportunities where we can actually enhance the existing capabilities that, and using the example which I gave, it's completely possible today, but it can be done even better if we apply uh, large language models or even machine learning if we have more data. The second set of capabilities is which was not really possible easily until we had large language models coming into play. So with OpenAI opening up, lot more opportunities around just understanding the text more, helping make good interpretation out of unstructured data. So we don't have to have highly structured SQL tables to be able to now truly gain insight. We can simply have all the historical, PDF documents uh, put together on some kind of server, and essentially the large language models are giving us highly actionable, highly accurate outcomes. So there are two kind of capabilities which now we are able to unlock. One is uh, things which were possible earlier, and number two, things which are becoming possible as we are moving ahead now. And we I'll probably ask you more on this topic, but I think there's a lot of opportunities to gain competitive advantage by focusing on the second bucket, by uh, leveraging the AI capabilities to unlock some of the capabilities which were previously unknown, and the market will probably take some time to catch up. So, Ganadish, based on your vast amount of experience, can you walk us through some of these actionable tactics, strategies, perhaps in both buckets that pharma companies can leverage? And I think it will be really valuable coming it from somebody like you.
So I'll use the example what you talked about, using large language model. So see, we do this annual product quality reviews. So in annual product quality reviews, you provide summaries of many QMS elements like deviations or change controls or market complaints, etc. Now, if you see, they are all the actual investigations or all this data is available in the text form. So now to get a good summary of the, people have to forcefully create some fields and
Yeah,
briefly capture certain elements of say change control, the root cause or root cause of deviation or failure, etc., or kappa. Brief summary you have to capture somewhere, just to so that that can be summarized using some tool in the form of APQR. So it is an extra effort, and that too it loses some of the very important information from the data. If we use this LLM tool for this application, actually it can read through the document and actually capture the gist of say investigation. What was the real root cause? What was the kappa taken? And if you provide summary in the APQR, and then not only that, and then you after compiling the entire APQR, you also for each section you create a summary, and that summary also is generated automatically using say Gen AI or something like that, so it not only summarizes, compiles the information, also draws meaningful conclusion, and then gives some direction what you need to do for improvement.
Yeah, so essentially now by using generative AI, we are not only able to automate the workflow, but essentially also automate certain
Decision
parts of
making,
the workflow which were not previously possible, and take it even one step further. Uh,
help in
Not
decision making.
only automate that, but interpret what the data is telling us without us spending too much effort, and then hopefully create a feedback loop of product quality improvement and perhaps product robustness, which I think would be our next topic of of our discussion. So, can you share with us what do you think about product robustness? What does this term mean? How should companies be thinking about this, and what are the actionable things that they can start doing today to ensure you know a good amount of product robustness in their manufacturing facilities?
So I would consider a product is robust if it consistently meets the its goal, that is the effective, safe and effective. That is one. And how do I measure that safety and effectiveness? Is there are no complaints coming from the product. All the time my failure rates are very low, and there are no deviations in that process because process is robust, and my process capabilities for the every critical quality attribute is more than say at least 1.3 or more, so at least I would say 4 sigma or close to 6 sigma.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means even if there is slight variation here and there also, product will remain within the specification. And another aspect of robustness is how stable is my product. So I would say minimum 3 year stability I would consider as a good shelf life for a product. Okay, so these 4 5 aspects. One is the right first time, lot acceptance rate, then complaint rate and process capability. These four aspects I will take into account to assess the product robustness. Okay, so I want as low as possible the complaint rate. I want very high lot acceptance rate, uh, then high RFT, right first time, and
Yeah.
high six, process capability. So these are my goals for this. So once I measure all these aspects, and then I identify, I set my own goals, because right from beginning we may not get 6 sigma. Okay, I want to first target on say 4 sigma. So I set my parameters for process capability accordingly, or for my complaint rate I set it based on say top decile or top quartile, whatever is comfortable for me to begin with, and then I see which are the product don't fall into robust category, and then I start working on that. Take some Six Sigma projects or product redevelopment projects, etc., and improve those. Identify why the robustness is low, and then act on those areas to improve the robustness in those where the if the rate is high, I work on reducing the failure rate.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but using the robustness level of a product, we may even decide to optimize the portfolio of the drugs a little bit. Uh, Not every product needs to be part of the portfolio if it's not meeting the robustness goals, if it's not meeting its potential, which was designed at the time of the drug development. So, can product robustness also be a signal to optimize the product portfolio for a pharma company?
That will depend on the commercial case, so if there is a good potential in that product from the point of view of the demand, etc., then it is better to work on that product and improve that product rather than just letting that go. Okay.
Yeah. So, just bringing this conversation back to the pricing pressure around, specifically around the generics drugs. So, we know that one component of product robustness is around operational excellence and ensuring that we are uh, not utilizing more resources than needed to make this product and keeping the cost to an absolute minimum while adhering to all the constraints that we need. The other element could be you talked about lot acceptance rate. You talked about process capability scores above 1.3, so essentially process robustness, and all these set of ideas which indicate that there's a higher standard of quality around a specific given product. So does that help a pharma company gain better market access, better market share, and perhaps even better price in some scenarios? So just in addition to the cost, can product robustness also play a role in um, adding value to the pricing pressure or the competitive play that pharma companies get into?
Absolutely. Because if your product is robust, you are almost certain about the outcome of the production, right? That you know that batch will meet the requirements, right? And it will go. So you can meet your on time in full. OTF, etc. And second thing, if there is any failure, any kind of failure, it involves lot of resources for investigation, documentation, and all aspects. And the batch gets delayed, and also you spend more resources and money to do the investigation, identifying root cause, and then taking appropriate kappa. So, and in spite of doing all that, there is always a regulatory risk. When the next inspection happens, all these investigations, etc., are reviewed, and if you are not thorough in those investigations, you can get into the 483s, or you may even get a warning letter, which can have direct impact on the company's business. Because if there is a warning letter, no new products don't get approved. Uh, so your future business get impacted. Okay, and if it's more
Yeah,
serious, there can be even import alert, and alert can stop your even the current business. Okay, so it is very, very
I think
important
that will be a
that you need to see. Many times people focus on compliance. My strong belief is they should focus on the quality and the robustness of the product. If your product processes are robust, you will automatically comply.
in fact, one could argue that the only reason we have compliance is in place is to ensure quality and robustness of the product.
Compliance is bare minimum, it's just license to operate. Okay, quality is what we are working for.
Yeah, no, I think that really puts things into perspective, and I think it would make a perfect segue for us to jump into the investigation and FDA citation side of things. But I want to just close the loop on uh, product robustness as a use case. So essentially, we know that in today's environment, drug shortages are playing a big role, and it seems to only become worse with time. We started hearing about some critical initiatives coming from FDA a few years ago. I think just last week or last month, I saw something coming out of some European regulators as well. So it seems like the issue of drug shortages is not going away anytime soon. And in fact, if as a pharma company, if I can position myself as a player who can reliably supply and continue to supply the drugs, which would really be indicated by product robustness, and that can have the potential to position me as a pharma company better in the highly competitive marketplace that we are living in today. So I think I'm really excited to discuss this next topic, which is around uh, perhaps the number one issue that we see in the FDA citations, lack of adequate investigations. So I know, Ganadhish, you have spent a lot of time and expertise on this topic. I have seen you speaking at forum on this topic, a few times. Um, can you just enlighten our audience by introducing the core of the problem? How should they think about it? And how can data and specifically AI play a role in resolving these problems and ultimately take us towards better quality and product robustness?
Okay. So, According to me, based on my so many years of experience, the main reasons why we are not able to go to the root cause is a lack of adequate understanding of product and process. All today we do all this quality by design, so we during the development, so we study all material attributes, the process parameters and their impact on the CQS, etc. We do all this thing on the paper and to meet the submission requirement. But when there are timelines, strict timelines for filing and first to file, etc., so not enough information or data is generated when the product is filed. And once the product is filed and when it gets approved, the same product needs to get transferred and then commercially manufactured. So at that point of time, one is the entire information about what is impacting the product quality may or may not be available. So when the if everything goes smooth, we are happy. But one day some multiple factors play a role, and that multivariate effect can lead into some failure. So when such kind of failure happens, when we start doing investigation, looking at the data of critical process parameters or material attributes, we may or may not be able to easily establish correlation between a particular parameter and a failing critical quality attribute. Okay, that is where the AI can help. So basically, what we need to find is what is difference between the failing batch versus passing batch, and that difference may not be because in a particular material attribute, critical material attribute or process parameter. It could be no other parameter or other material attribute which is not identified as critical in the QBD experimentation. Okay, and it could also be a multivariate effect. Multiple things may play role and can contribute to the failure. Like example, in case of our car accident, etc., they don't happen because of only one reason. If the road is slippery,
Yeah.
it is dark, and so multiple things play a role, and then you end up into a failure or accident. So that same thing happens here. So finding it by linear evaluation of correlation between one parameter to other, you are not likely to see the root cause. So that is where AI can really look into multiple data points from all the aspect, right from materials, all material, not just the key starting material, all the or the API, etc. They look into all parameters of the materials, all parameters of process, and then see an environmental condition, and then see that what what is the difference in this particular failing batch versus the all the passing batches data what you have. And if that can throw that, then you can further do scientific evaluation of that information, because that is just a data correlation, right? So you have to prove it scientifically that yes, that it actually impacted the product and resulted into failure. I'll give an example of this kind without
Okay.
mentioning product. We had a the product failure in dissolution, and we did lot of evaluation of all the parameters, etc., and could not find any root cause. After doing this multivariate analysis and principal component analysis, we could see that the the batch was different, definitely falling into different cluster than the passing batches. So that clear evidence came out that something is there. So then we use contribution plots to see what parameters are contributing maximum to this difference in this particular batch from the other batches. And that contribution plot showed us that relative humidity in the ambient air was the one which was contributing to the plot. Now this is just a statistical correlation. How it is working and all, we had no idea, because the humidity was within the limit prescribed in the
Okay.
process. So but then we conducted uh, controlled experiments by exposing it to higher humidity, lower humidity, and then we proved that yes, that in fact that higher humidity was playing a role, although it was within the limit, that was playing a role and affecting the uh, dissolution of the batch, and this is how we could reach to the root cause and take kappa.
So, that's really a fascinating example, and I really loved the analogy of a car accident. And I want to just continue this line of thought a little bit further with you. Seems like an example where we can actually make use of the historical data of failed versus past batches. Um, but if we talk about a car accident, we are not always looking for data from previous accidents to be able to predict the next one. We are looking at images of the road conditions, slipperiness or not. We are monitoring the different health parameters of the engine, things like temperature. We are also monitoring the noise level from certain machinery which is driving the car ahead. And perhaps we are also looking at, I know a lot of operational heavy companies track the drivers, their facial expressions, eye movements.
Hmm.
So essentially, we are not only looking at the data from past accidents, but we know that there are some well-reasoned behaviors, which can be proactively tracked and monitored, which would have a high probability of contribution towards batch failure. So again, this seems like an opportunity where before generative AI, we had to have data for past and failed batches. Not having the super capability of interpretation and reasoning, but with now generative AI, I would argue that we actually don't need a lot of historical data to achieve a significant amount of outcome in terms of predicting whether a batch would pass or fail. So essentially, I think I really loved your analogy around car accident, which makes it really clear that uh, not having enough data is actually not an excuse to uh, unlock this particular capability. How would you think about that?
I'll give you one more example related to car. Now cars come with ADAS, right? Or in the
Yeah.
aeroplanes also there is what is it, MKS or something, which avoids the collision, right? So um, suppose I'm just hypothetically thinking aloud. Okay, so I'm a analyst. See, one another problem pharma industry is facing is the lab errors. So if a analyst does an error unknowingly, and it can result into out of specification result. Now you have to go into the investigation, and again it becomes very difficult to pinpoint what error the analysis really carried out and which resulted. If it is obvious, you can easily find, but if it is not obvious, like making up the volume of solution or meniscus of pipette, etc., so those kind of things you cannot really prove it that this is what has happened. So I'm just using that example. Suppose let's have a situation that I am an analyst. So I have a headphone, and I use text to voice conversion. So it constantly gives me instructions like Google, using my test method what I'm supposed to do. Okay, and so I don't have to constantly look at the test procedure, because constantly if I don't look at the test procedure, there is a distraction, and affects my productivity. So, and because of that, then I sometimes ignore and start performing from my memory. So but if I have that a device which keeps telling me step by step instructions how to proceed, that will simplify my working, and chance of doing the error will reduce. Second thing, if I have some device like camera mounted on my head, or Google Glass kind of thing, which also checks what I'm doing. Suppose I'm supposed to use 5 ml pipette, and I pick up 3 ml pipette or 2 ml pipette, and the glass notices it, and I'm supposed to use 5 ml and gives me a warning. So okay, you're using a wrong pipette. So those kind of things. So proactively, this kind of systems can prevent the errors, and that way improve the efficiency, and also avoid out of lab errors and out of specification resulting from the lab errors. So that can significantly improve the quality of results the lab is producing.
Yeah, no, again, a highly actionable example. And I must add some context to it that, in fact, getting simply from text to audio is a technology which
Available.
uh, is available today. I've seen this in action. It's relatively cheap as well. So this is again a low-hanging opportunity, which, in my opinion, every lab must adopt
In fact,
as quickly
in
as
my
possible, given
blog,
the
I
potential.
went next tab, that is voice to text. So again,
Yeah,
the as per the GMP, you have to contemporaneously record all the activities what you are doing in manufacturing as well as in QC lab. So again, that is a distraction, and every time I cannot record. So when I'm doing 10, so I'll do all the things and then start recording, so then it becomes non-contemporaneous. So this also, if I can record it using voice command in my limbs, etc., so that also will significantly improve the accuracy as well as save time of the analyst.
yeah. So Rajesh, thank you so much for sharing all of these strategies today. I want to just touch upon one final thing. So you have a huge amount of experience in the way decisions are made and the kind of initiatives are prioritized. Uh, we know that many of these technologies are available out of box. They are cost effective as well. They have proven outcomes. What has been the mental block in limited adoption towards the technologies that I think both you and I have seen, and how can the top leadership, uh, the corporate management start thinking about putting together a digital slash AI roadmap for this year? Because I think 2024 will be a pivotal year. Companies which move towards generative AI will position themselves uh, in a highly competitive advantage for maybe a decade to come. We know that something which um, a lot of companies did with cloud and just creating that ontology layer about 7 to 8 years ago, they are still reaping the rewards. And this is, in my opinion, the pivotal moment which pharma industry has come to again, where companies who create the advantage now will probably have. We never know what would happen in the future, but at least you should hope that you would have rewards for decades to come. So, according to you, what are the blockers and how should corporate leadership board think about creating the roadmap for this year?
So the biggest block in the minds of people is what will regulators think about this new technology? Okay, because nobody has experiences when you are doing it for first time. So how you will be able to convince regulators that yes, that is it is giving the right result. So this is the block I expect to be there in the mind. But unless you make an effort and to your best extent, abilities, you do a validation, etc. And regulators are open nowadays to any new ideas. Like process analytical technology. We have got approval for many PAT applications for use of like say blending, homogeneity, etc. So regulators are quite open, but that mental block is there because people don't go into enough depth of these technologies to understand how these technologies can help, and then again there is no very strong desire because the human resource cost in India is relatively cheap, so driving efficiencies, etc. There's no so much of drive. Okay, so that is one aspect. One thing I would like to correct, you mentioned that these technologies are cheap. I would not totally agree with it because they are still quite expensive. And if you are to, like, what I was talking about, system of having cameras and Google Glass vision or facial identification, etc., they are quite expensive. So one is expensive. Second thing, when you get this technology there, you can't just plug and play. You have to develop them to suit your application, right? So that development time and cost is substantial. And after development, all these systems need to go through the exhaustive computer validation. to demonstrate that they are working reliably, okay, and producing consistently correct outcome, then only you will be able to apply. So this whole thing takes time and a lot of money. So but unless you leaders are willing to take some chance and risk and go for this technology, you will never know the advantage of this.
Thank you for sharing your perspective with our audience today, your actionable insights, and again, thank you so much for all the work that you continue to do to progress the pharma industry forward. And I'm really hoping to get you back again soon and discuss on some of the topics that we couldn't discuss today. So thank you for joining us today and looking forward to have a chat again
Thank
soon.
you, a very interesting chat. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.